We will begin with roll call. I'm going to ask Secretary Davis to please conduct roll call.
The Honorable Sonia Fillingame, Chair.
Present.
The Honorable Mayor Vince Williams. The Honorable Vice Chair Mario Avery.
Present.
The Honorable Mayor Teresa Thomas Smith.
Present.
The Honorable Councilman Brian Jones.
Present.
The Honorable Councilman Nathan Slayton. And the Honorable City Manager Tony Phillips.
Present.
Okay. Thank you, Secretary Davis. We have a confirmed quorum, so we can conduct official business at tonight's meeting. On our agenda item tonight, we have next our minutes. I'm going to ask if everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes, and if there is a motion regarding said minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign?
I'll abstain. I wasn't here for the meeting.
Okay. Abstention noted. Any opposed, like sign? Our minutes stand as approved. Next, we have on the agenda member compensation policy and vendor payment procedures.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. We'd had a brief discussion at our last meeting about a couple of issues that now have come ripe for consideration based upon the last vote that you made with respect to your meeting schedule. Just to recall from your last meeting, the vote back then was to change your meeting schedule from monthly to quarterly, with this being the last monthly meeting and the quarterly meetings to begin in January, go January, April, et cetera. That being the case, there are two issues that are brought up as a result. One is the issue of compensation. The second is the issue of vendor payments. The issue of compensation is on before you because last year you had a month, I think it was the month of September, where there was no meeting at all. And we didn't know whether or not you had intended to receive compensation for a month where you had no meeting at all. You voted and said, yes, you want to receive compensation even if there was no meeting scheduled. Well, if we're going to quarterly meetings, you're not going to be meeting in November or December. And the question is, do you still stand behind that policy of being paid when no meeting is scheduled? Or should we just have compensation flow on a quarterly basis, January, et cetera? And I didn't really know how to formulate anything without further direction from the board as to how you want to receive the compensation. So any direction from this body would be most helpful to figure out what needs to be done.
Thank you, Attorney Davenport. At this time, I'd like to ask the members, for your thoughts regarding that. I've heard some say maybe no compensation, but I don't know. So the floor is open.
You want to bring it up?
So good evening. To provide context to my perspective on this, as you're aware, I was not at the last meeting, but I've reviewed the minutes. And it may be at a different point in our agenda where I would like to suggest that we revisit this conversation about the meeting schedule for a number of different reasons. So I don't know that I need to revisit that now because that informs, first, I believe we should get paid when we meet. So I'll start there, whatever that meeting schedule is going to be. But I do want to revisit that conversation, if that's under other business, about the meeting schedule, because I've had some things I'd like to share with the board members, and I think we need to take another look at that. So I will start by saying I think we should be compensated when we meet, whatever that meeting schedule is going to be, with the caveat that I think we need to revisit that conversation about the meeting schedule.
Any other discussion?
Basically, in this case, I concur about the revisiting of the schedule. As you know, I've actually voted against this quarterly meeting. With the volume of work I believe that has to get done, I just don't see how we resolve some of the issues we got where you're meeting quarterly versus monthly. That, again, that's my personal, but again, I don't know if that falls upon the now or other business, but that's my perspective as well.
Councilman Jones, do you have, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So I am going to parrot, in a sense, what my fellow board members to the left have said. I was completely opposed to going to to quarterly meetings. I think that with the known that we will have a new member in January for the city of Fairburn and the potentiality of having new members from Union City, I just think there's too much work to be done to drop to a quarterly meeting. However, when it comes to compensation, I think we should be only compensated when we meet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll say that compensation is only for meetings. You don't meet, no compensation.
It sounds like we have some consensus around that.
Okay.
With respect to the compensation issue, whatever the other issue ends up being this evening, I'll either develop a document to pay you quarterly per compensation, or status quo will occur, which is you're getting paid monthly because you're meeting monthly. Madam Chair, I defer to you with respect to how to handle the second issue. If you would prefer to bring up the issue of the meeting schedule, it could take away the need to talk away the issue of the vendor payments. I'll defer to whatever the chair would like to do.
Okay, we can go ahead and discuss the schedule since it impacts payment. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my concerns about the meeting schedule relate to a number of larger issues, in my view. All of us, all three cities, are significantly invested in this authority, and there are millions of dollars of debt service that still remain. I understand that we've reached a crossroads with the authority where we need to determine what the future will look like. But I think there are major and significant questions that need to be answered, and I am not clear on how meeting less frequently will advance us towards those answers. My belief is that the solutions that will best serve a 50-year water solution for not only our cities, but possibly others in the region, likely will look very different than what it started out at 25 years ago. Dynamics have changed, circumstances have changed, finances have changed, and I think we need to expand our efforts well beyond previous assumptions. What we started out to do may not today be feasible, but that doesn't mean there aren't other solutions and other answers out there. I think Atlanta has to be a part of that discussion. I think there are other stakeholders regionally and beyond that need to be involved in that discussion. I think our staff does a tremendous job. They're very qualified and experienced. But I think the direction has to come from the people sitting up here on this board. And I think we need to be more involved in those discussions. We need to help direct those discussions in those meetings. Just thinking as I was driving over to this meeting of the members on this board, I would conservatively guess that there's probably between 80 and 100 years of local government experience sitting up here. And those are contacts and professional networks and people that you know and folks you've worked with, folks you can contact. And it may take all of that and then more to get us to a solution. I say all that to say we need more investment in this process and not less. And when I say investment, I'm not talking about money, time, effort. Even if we were meeting quarterly, there may be a need for us to be meeting with other stakeholders in between the quarterly meetings. I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I don't have that roadmap defined. Let me be very clear. What I know is that it's going to take a lot of work by the people sitting up here on this board to get us there, even if some of those folks may change in the future. We have to honor our responsibility around the debt that's been incurred. And more importantly, we need a 50-year water solution. That's what this all started out for, and we don't have that. And if we don't have that, my instinct is to double down. Let's work harder. Let's figure out what needs to happen. Let's get to those solutions. Maybe we need to be doing something different in these meetings. Maybe we need to be having different conversations. But you don't get there, in my estimation, by dialing back. A couple of meetings ago, I mentioned something similar, and one of the comments that was made was, well, we should get our own house in order, and then we will figure out where we need to go. I wasn't completely in agreement with that when it was mentioned, because I don't know that we have that luxury of just, let's get our ducks in a row, and then we'll go talk to people. We're 25 years behind. We need an answer yesterday. And we need to lean in. When I say we, I'm talking about this board, to use every available resource, contact, professional network, folks we've worked with over the years. All of us I know have varying conversations. I've had them, I know the Mayor Avery has, I can only imagine everyone on this dais has. This is not the time to dial back. There are too many questions that are yet to be answered. There's too much debt out there that's yet to be serviced, and we still don't have a 50-year water solution, which is what we started out to do. And if we haven't checked the box that this authority was formulated to check, then we should redouble our efforts and figure out what else we should be doing. Listen, our 3 cities building a water treatment facility hasn't happened. I'm not precluding that it can happen, but we have to expand our concept of what a 50-year water solution may look like. And I think we don't get there in a reasonable way by saying, let's meet less frequently. Now, with all of that said, the meetings may need to be different than they have been in the past. I appreciate all the information that the staff provides. The monthly reports are valuable and useful. I want to continue to receive those. It's a lot of great information. I appreciate the work that Andrea, Laura, Dennis, Tom, and everyone else puts into this. But I think the meetings may need to be more than us coming here and receiving staff reports. And what that needs to be, I don't have that answer, but I know we need to figure out what that is that goes beyond monthly meetings of staff reports and starts getting into substantive conversations. I'm all good. I read through the meeting notes. We're waiting for Atlanta to respond. Well, we don't have the luxury of being in a wait to see what happens posture. There are other folks we may need to reach out to, other stakeholders we may need to pull into conversations and meetings. I just know in my limited access, I've had conversation with folks going, we're waiting to see what you guys are gonna do. What's going on? Where are you? And I won't start calling names, but I'm saying this because I've talked to stakeholders who are like, everybody's kind of wondering what's going on with the Middle Chattahoochee Water Authority. Well, guess what? We're the ones who have to make that determination. We're the ones that have to provide that direction. And I just strongly feel this is not a lean out time, it's a lean in time. We have an obligation and a responsibility that was put in place 25 years ago. And I'm not saying this to blame anyone. I know a lot of hard work and a lot has been accomplished in 25 years. Let me be clear. So I don't want this to sound like I'm denigrating anything that's come before. But we don't have that answer, despite all the hard work that's gone into. And so guess what? We need to work harder. We need to lean in more. We need to figure out what is not on the table that needs to be on the table. And until you cross the finish line, it's just my instinct not to dial back. If I'm not gotten to where I'm supposed to get, I work harder.
Okay.
I lean in more, not back. So that's just my 2 cents, and I'll defer to.
Thank you, Member Phillips. There's just one additional thing I would like to add to the conversation is that I don't think it was that if there is a need that you couldn't meet. I think the understanding that I had is that it would be a quarterly basis. However, if there is a need for the Water Authority to meet, then the Water Authority could meet at any time. That was my understanding, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that was the understanding that I had as chair. Any thoughts on that to address, because well, Member Jones, and then any thoughts on that? Because I think it would still respond to what you're saying, is, you know, if there is a need to meet, the authority can call a meeting at any time. Member Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would say that last meeting was 25 minutes. If we don't have a direction, do we need to meet? We're gonna be here 25 minutes to basically approve reports that don't have, we don't have all the enough data to meet on. So, do you need to meet just to meet, to say we did it? Or, and I agree, I mean, we need a direction, but until we have that direction, I don't think you need to meet every month and just sit here and say, oh, we approved the financial report, go home.
What I would
That's why,
What I would suggest to you is that lack of direction is our responsibility. That's the very point I'm making. And so we shouldn't be coming here just to meet and do reports. That's why I mentioned these meetings may need to change, because I'm not interested in coming here and just getting reports and improving invoices. What I'm saying is we need to progress toward the goal that this authority was charged with when it was conceived, and we're not doing that. And meeting less frequently, I don't see how that advances that goal. So you're right. We need to figure that out. We need to determine what the roadmap should be, what we should be doing in these meetings to have a more productive outcome. All I'm suggesting is that takes work. And so as opposed to going, well, we'll get together when we figure this
we did.
out, I'm saying, no, we need to meet regularly, change what we're doing to better produce the outcomes we're seeking, and we need to divide those answers. That's
So
our
let-
responsibility.
Let me just bring the conversation back to the point that I made, because I think that that could be a sweet spot for both points of view on it, is that if you still meet if you meet quarterly, you got your cadence, so it would address Member Jones' concern about meeting just to meet, because there's an expense with this, we know that, right? If in times where there is a need to meet, there is an action that needs to be taken, there is an opportunity, we call the meeting. We still have the flexibility to call the meeting. And so it seems to me that that's a good way to look at both lenses, being stewards as well as making sure that if action needs to be taken, if the authority needs to meet, we have the capacity to meet. And I'm going to recognize you in just a minute, but I want to ask Mr. Davenport that question. Could it be positioned so that, because we're saying quarterly, last meeting, the body voted quarterly, could that nuance be added so that it's not restricted, right? We can meet at any time. The authority has the opportunity to call a meeting at any time. Is that correct?
That is correct. Your bylaws state that you have to meet a minimum of quarterly. You can meet as often as you would like, presuming that adequate notice goes out, which is generally at least 24 hours notice.
Right, there might be a need to meet more than one time, in a quarter, or more than one time in a month. There may be actions that needs to happen, but at least you will have the flexibility.
All of us, I'm sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I lean more on this side of how I think as far as how often we should meet. My recommendation was that instead of going to every 3 months, was to meet at least every other month until we figure out, and I'm going back, we are responsible for this. I've been here for almost 2 years now, and I still don't know what we've done. In real talk, I can look in the city of Palmetto and I can identify we did this, and this. I don't know what to say about this for the authority. We have a partnership where we're working with Georgia Tech in our city on 3 different projects right now. Georgia Tech says in 10 weeks, we can just about figure out anything, and if we can't figure it out in 10 weeks, we'll give it to the next group, and it's through their engineering. That is a partner that I don't think that we've tapped into. Again, so going back to what City Manager Tony said, there's so many resources because we are, for 25 years, it feels like we've just been like the children in Egypt. I mean, just not in Egypt. I'm thinking of
In the wilderness.
in the wilderness, just out here, just willy-nilly, just kind of walking around, trying to figure out what we're doing. We haven't come in, since I've been sitting here, we haven't come up with anything that I'm comfortable with. As a matter of fact, I'm sometimes less comfortable with where we are because I just don't feel like we're going anywhere. It's the same get up, make a report. Like you said, we're here for a few minutes, same little information, boom, boom, boom. Where's the meat? Where's the substance? And we haven't, as a body, we haven't asked for anything more from the people who are presenting things to us, in my opinion. So I just think that, again, I think we need to lay down a clear direction for where we want to go. I am really open to reaching out to Georgia Tech, asking them, are they willing to take a look at what we've got going on to see if they can help us, because they are doing some amazing things in Palmetto, and I know that they're available. So I am not with the quarterly meeting. I don't agree to it. I didn't vote for it in the vote last meeting. And again, if we were to scale back, I'm all about going forward, because I do believe we should still be meeting monthly till new people come in, acclimated, figure out a real plan moving forward, and then maybe go every other month. To go quarterly, I'm not in favor.
Member Jones?
Well, I'll say, and I heard, we've been at this for 25 years, which is correct. Having sat here a number of years, there was action. There was a lot of stuff that was happening at these meetings. There was plans, there were documents. I got binders at home of what we were planning to build. But when that price tag showed up and we couldn't afford it, we got to a halt. It wasn't that we weren't doing anything. There's documents of what we plan to do with the authority. Until that credit card bill shows showed up with what was gonna cost us, we halted.
Correct.
So until we can figure out how we pay for it,
The original idea.
the original alternative, we still gotta figure out how we gonna pay for it.
Agreed.
You know, we can draw up plans and they can sit on the shelf, because many times we've done the LCI studies, you get them back and they sit on the shelf, collect dust, because you don't have the money to implement them. We got a plan, we don't have the money to pay for it. Until we find the avenue to pay for it, we're at a position that we're stuck, which is why I'm saying we don't need to come meet if we don't have a way to pay for the plan.
Right, and that does not, because Georgia Tech, explore the option, that's a great idea. I think what the sentiments that's been provided, you know, on the other side of the house is, when you have that, when there is something to bring to the authority, let's meet on it. We're not excluding from meeting, saying, let's be excluded from meeting on it, let's meet on it. But it's just more of the stewards and cadence of, okay, do we meet when we don't have a solution yet? We still cultivate the solution, we still work the solution. When we have some options, bring it before the body so that the body can consider it accordingly.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Avery.
Yes, ma'am. My perspective on that is, again, Mayor Teresa, great idea with Georgia Tech. I was looking not only just Georgia Tech, Atlanta Regional Commission, and I think bringing partners in or bringing people in to assess folk that deal with this type of industry on a regular basis, I'm pretty convinced there's ideas we haven't looked at yet. Mr. Jones, you've got a valid point about you got a plan, but we don't know how to pay for it. That's when you I solved the city of Fairburn's problem, bringing people to the government that had no interest prior to being brought to the table, and we took their ideas and ran with it. And I think we're missing out, not bringing partners that we all have relationships with. Like I said, that's just two of many I can think of, that at least come in and assess our situation, give us, and then say, give me your perspective. Give me an avenue how I come up with the funding that you're talking about, with the previous plan that was adopted or a new plan that you may suggest. So I just think we have to open the gate wide and open up for partnerships.
Let me add this. So everyone on this board has major obligations beyond this water authority. The person I can probably relate to the most is Sonia, because our jobs are not all that dissimilar. I know she's busy. I can only imagine. My concern about dialing back meetings is our bandwidth is already maximized. We're running cities, we got elections going on, we got councils going on. It is too easy for everything else to flood the zone, legitimate responsibilities that we all have as professionals, and we dial back these meetings, and I don't know how that gets us to the answers we don't have. The responsibility for all of those questions lies with us. And I think if we meet on a regular basis and begin to figure out what should we be doing differently, we can't pay for that plan. Maybe that ain't the plan. So we can't be stuck because we couldn't pay for that plan. So I don't know what that answer is, but saying, well, this costs too much, and so until we can pay for this, let's just dial it back. I don't know that that gets us to our core responsibility, which is a 50-year water sustainability for the cities in this authority and beyond. I know from conversations I've had with stakeholders that the price that is too much for us is not viewed that way by a lot of other stakeholders. Like, in fact, I may have shared this in a previous meeting. I had one significant stakeholder say, is that all? That's what stopped you guys? That price tag? And I was like, yeah, for our 3 cities. And that comment was made in the context of there are different ways to get there. There are other folks who have vested interest in water sustainability for the region that may say a solution in the southern crescent of Fulton County not only benefits our 3 cities, but could benefit other major stakeholders who would be willing to say, well, let's have a different conversation because we got some issues that may dovetail with your issues. We don't get there unless we're actively having conversations. And if we dial back to quarterly meetings, my concern is we're going to remain stuck. And we'll wait for somebody to come to a meeting and go, oh, I got an idea. No, I think some of these meetings may need to resemble more work sessions. We may need to invite other stakeholders to come and present to us. We may need to have folks from Georgia Tech. We may need to have folks from the North Georgia Water Commission. We may need to invite representatives from ARC into these meetings. I'm not suggesting that we just come here and keep doing what we've been doing. What I'm suggesting is we have work to do. And we need to be about the business of figuring out the answers that we do not have And if we dial back, I have a concern that won't produce better answers.
Let me just say this, because I want to be careful about dialing back. I don't think that model dials back. I think that what it says is if there's no action to be taken, if you don't have anyone to come in, then we don't meet as a body that we're stewards first, because we have to be stewards. If there are options on the table, ARC, Georgia Tech, if there is interest where they need to come in, we meet. You have the flexibility to meet. And so that is why, I'm more amenable to that.
No question. Is the compensation the issue here? Let's just dispatch with it.
No, because
Come
I-
together and meet. Is
don't
that
think-
why we're hesitant to meet?
I absolutely don't think so, because it seems like the consensus of the body is if we're not meeting, we don't have compensation.
I just wanted to be clear that if that is part of the concern about being good stewards, that we shouldn't come here and get this $150 if we don't have something new to talk about, then dispense with $150. Just get rid of it. Let's just come meet and put our heads together and come up with answers. Because being good stewards is about the 50-year solution. That's our core responsibility. And we can't lean out. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say lean out, because I understand your point, Chairwoman.
Yeah, it's not leaning out.
I'm not leaning out, so let me rephrase
Everything that you said can be done under that same model.
Right.
Under that same, everything that you just said, all of the options that was just recommended can still be accomplished. And those are great options. None of them exclude those things.
And I get that they're not excluded. Meeting regularly gives us a target each month to come in and become with information, suggestions, ideas about how we get to a better outcome. I'm a little hesitant to go back to the stakeholders in Fairburn and say, yeah, we're paying $1.1 million a year, and now we're going to meet quarterly instead of monthly. And when we have a good idea, then we'll call a meeting. That just doesn't seem
When
like.
we
it's
have
realistic.
action to be taken, when you have ARC, when you have Georgia Tech, we meet. We meet at any time we need to meet. But I understand it's the pleasure of the body.
So
Mayor,
here's my question to you. If we agree tonight to bring Georgia Tech next month.
if the body, if that's the consensus of the
Is
body,
that possible?
I've just.
Let's, I mean,
I've just heard that the quarterly model does not exclude the authority saying by consensus, we'll have a meeting.
But also with that, and I can only speak for my schedule, but I can imagine that at least two other people up here, it's like herding cats when we're trying to figure out how to squeeze another meeting
regular
in
meeting.
somewhere that's not a regular meeting. That sometimes takes more time figuring out how to get a meeting than the actual meeting itself. Because if we got to figure out the calendar for all the people that are sitting here, that can be challenging. So static meetings work for that reason, because we always know that on the second Tuesday, we're going to be meeting with the Water Authority.
Okay.
So that's my concern about trying to coordinate a special call meeting every time we need to meet.
My experience with busy people, which all of you are, is that empty calendars fill up quickly. If I pull a regular meeting off my calendar, something else is going to be there.
Yeah.
It's going to fill up quickly, and I just think that does not position us best. We need to figure out these answers. Now, again, and I've said this before, I don't suggest that we just come here and approve invoices and get staff reports. I believe these meetings should be substantively different. I think these should be solution-oriented meetings. I think all of us have to figure out what that means and come to these meetings each month prepared with new ideas, new suggestions, new stakeholders. And though the staff reports are good and we can still have them, that should not be the extent of this meeting. I think meeting productively is the issue, not meeting less frequently.
I think too that we haven't, as an authority, done enough to really tell our, I know we say staff, but I hear one week they're staff, one time they're staff and they're not staff, but I don't know the right word. But we're not
Project
really.
team.
Okay, so we're not clearly telling them maybe what they can be doing. Maybe there's not enough action items, because that's what, we don't even leave here with real action items as an authority. What do we do to help forward this? We can put it off on all the people sitting on that side as much as we want to. Going back to what you said, it's on us, but what clear actions are we taking after we leave this room? Because no one has said, hey, Chairwoman Sonia, I need you to do this, or Mayor so-and-so, I need you to do this. Where do we plant our flag in all of this as the body when it comes to the people that sit on the other side of the dais?
can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Well, and again, if in the spirit of trying to create productivity, and I guess it moved the needle, as Tony mentioned. My question would be, if we start next month asking Georgia Tech to come and look at, and the question to you, Mayor, would be, when we ask Georgia Tech, tell me what is it we're asking them to come and do?
We can define to them, when Georgia Tech, when we entered in our relationship with them, they ask us to identify several projects. What are the major things you got going on in your city? We identified 7. They took 3 of them on this semester, and they are cranking through them just like this. What they do is the students in the engineering school, they need credit and they need data. So they will do all the work you need because they get the credit and the data, and now you own the data. So everything they're doing for the city of Palmetto will add value to Palmetto, will help build the infrastructure on multiple levels, all different things, and then we own that. They get credit hours for school, and they get a grade for it.
The productivity. So between now and whenever we're going to meet next, assuming the Georgia Tech idea is one that we can garner consensus around, between the board members, we need to draft a working scope of services that we will email back and forth between us, tweak, and come up with a final draft of what we're asking someone like this Georgia Tech entity to do. We can give them the history of how we got here. We can tell them the $160 million plan. We can tell them that there may be other answers that we've not uncovered yet. We can tell them we need a 50-year water solution. We can tell them the debt we've incurred. Give all that to these smart graduate students, and let's just see what they come up with. That's one option, because there are multiple other ones out there that we could have similar dialogues with. There are ideas we have not considered. And until we actively reach out to them and start engaging various stakeholders, I am convinced that if we do this productively, we will move forward with ideas that had not previously been discussed by this board. There's folks out there, smart, knowledgeable experts, that can come up with some ideas that we go, wait a minute, we hadn't thought about that. That might be a potential solution. We should be having those conversations. And in between meetings, again, owning to the fact that we're all busy, we need to be doing some work so that when we do come to the meetings, it's not just invoices and reports. That's on us to do that.
You recognize?
I'm fine with all the ideas, but if we're gonna throw the ideas in, we don't need to dismiss the one that came from months ago in reference to a way to start bringing in revenue for the authority that can start paying on projects. Mayor Smith, you had some concerns with that idea where you, I think it was around the model of start phasing in the projects all the way down, whether you come from one end or the other. People start getting water now, phase 1, it might take 3 or 4 phases to get there. When money starts coming in, you can start paying down some of the debt, but you start getting revenue to come in. Is that what am I saying that right, Mitch? When,
The model that was talked about from Tom Owens, is that what you're referring to? Yes, certainly the concentration was on the northern end because that's where water supply was the strongest and most robust. And over time, it would work its way south. That was the simplistic version of the model, but it did not impact everyone all at once immediately.
right, and I think the current model that we're looking at is we want the whole thing to be built out, and then we want to turn it on so that everybody gets water at the same time.
A work session around that very idea would be a
exactly.
wonderful topic for the next
Exactly.
meeting. Have Tom come in, give us a detailed work presentation on what that looks like, what it would take, package that with the information we're sending to Georgia Tech as
Yep.
another option. There are so many conversations that we can have with various folks to move this forward. I agree with you, let's not dismiss that, but let's work it.
Well,
That's correct.
let me say this. I'm not gonna say that I dismissed it, but I will dismiss anything that does not indirectly include Palmetto. And that conversation, it included us in a plan that may or may not come to fruition. By the time it gets to Palmetto, what if somebody says, oh, now the price tag is 3 too much, not too much, 3 much, now we can't do anything. I don't see that. And again, until somebody can make me see that, really see it, then I will not advocate for any plan that says we'll give this piece, give you some, and we'll give you some, and we'll get to you when we get to you. No, I'm not, because I get,
We want the spigot turned on at the same time for all 3.
In an ideal, that was the plan in the beginning, wasn't it?
Right, but I'm
So,
saying we gotta look at that, that's what I'm saying, that plan was put on the table, and it's like, nah, that's not gonna work.
So my experience with concepts and ideas like this is you start with an idea, and that sounds like a good one to start with. And then you put smart people in a room together and you work that idea and you come up with different iterations, different suggestions, different ways to do it. And by the time you get to the end of that process, you have a much better product at the end than what you started with. I hear Mayor's concerns, and we can talk through those in a working session where we say, okay, so how do we make sure Palmetto feels fully invested in this project? How do we ensure that they're not at the tail end of this feeling like they're going to get what's left over at the end of it? I hear you. I think there's a solution for that. I don't know what it is, but you work to get there. You have a working session, you go through the details, you put new ideas into it, and you start with one idea and you finish with something better. Engineers do this all the time. I got a good friend of mine who's a designer, an engineer. He designs power combines. They start with one design, all the engineers tear it apart. They do that 5 or 6 times, and by the time they're done, guess what they come up with? A much better product. We have to do that in our own way. Because we have ideas that in their initial iteration didn't hit with everybody, doesn't mean we discard them. No, we work them. We go, okay, I hear your concerns. Let's talk about that. Could we align this differently? Could it play out differently? Is that an engineering possibility? Is it an option? I don't know those answers, but we gotta have the conversations. These meetings have to change. They need to be working substantive meetings where we're coming in here, tackling ideas like that, bringing in Georgia Tech, talking to the Atlanta Regional Commission, getting the North Georgia Water Commission in here. There is so much we could be doing. And so my concern is if we go, well, when we come up with something, then we'll meet. For busy folks, I don't know how that gets you there. I'm not saying it can't work, but everybody's gonna go back to their 3 cities doing the work they're getting paid to do. And before you know it, we'll be in January and not much will have happened. When you have a regular meeting, and if we turn these into working sessions, my phrase, we can call it something different, then we can talk about it, email each other during the month to talk about. We get an email from Jessica every month saying what needs to go on the agenda. Jessica, I don't know how many responses you get. It doesn't seem like a lot because it's the same formulaic agenda. That's not Jessica, that's us. Every month she sends that email, and every month she gets crickets. And so we have to change that. We have to start putting substantive things in process. It's not the frequency of the meetings, guys. And again, if the $150, and hopefully it's not, but if that's an issue, I, for one, volunteer to dispense with it. Get that out of the conversation so we can get work done. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I think we've had some good, robust conversation around this issue. What was on the table was the compensation policy and the vendor payment procedures. And we understand that the meeting cadence affects that. And so there's been discussion, we pulled that out. I've heard monthly, I've heard maybe every other month I mean, did you say every other?
I said every other month.
Every other month. Is there a motion regarding that, every other month or every month? What is the consensus is there a motion on the table regarding this issue?
In this case, I'll go make a motion to go every other month. I actually rather go every month. Let me just say, I make a motion to go back to every month.
Okay. There's a motion for monthly. It's been second. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. That was Member Phillips. Okay, thank you. Then next item of business is regarding the RFP. I know Mayor Avery mentioned the RFP at our last meeting, so the floor is open for discussion.
RFP for
For the services,
And for the financial, my understanding from Mayor Avery is that Member Phillips had a recommendation.
So I will forward that. I thought I had previously done so, and if I was remiss in doing so, I've got 3 firms that our procurement manager identified. I will send those this evening to Jessica.
So is it okay with the board that we take that up at the next meeting? Because we would have to
Absolutely.
review those, correct?
Absolutely. So I will send those to Jessica this evening.
Is that-
These are firms to do that.
to replace Post,
Okay.
is my understanding.
So I'm just trying to understand what.
Well, as an option to replace Post. And I haven't contacted any of these firms. I asked my procurement manager if she could come up. I told her what the authority does and essentially what Post had been doing for us. And she recommended firms that she had worked with in previous cities. And so I'll forward those. That doesn't mean those are the only three we can entertain. I would like to think there are other accounting firms that, I know we've had a lot of discussion around this. We're too small for some folks, and I get that. So I wouldn't go to Price Waterhouse and ask them to come do this, but hopefully we can develop some three. But I'll send those three to Jessica this evening.
Okay.
And would like to propose that that be a part of our discussion for the next meeting.
Add it to the agenda, okay?
May I also ask, do we have an update on the forensic audit? We haven't really talked about that, and that's huge. So it maybe if one of these firms may be good for the every month of the managing the authority, we still need somebody, and I know that we were looking for content to help to guide what the scope should look like. The presentation that was made by the Rosales Financial Group included some things for the scope. So, and they're all in the minutes, they're attached to the minutes for, I think it was June. So we need to still be talking about that as well. We can't not talk about it at some point.
Okay, all right. So, Madam Secretary, if you would please add the respective items to the agenda, as that is the consensus of the board. Next up, we have our reports. I'm going to ask Attorney Davenport if he wouldn't mind coming forward again, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From the authority side, basically my report consisted of the items we talked about earlier. There was really nothing new to report other than that.
Okay.
I do have information on the requisition, however, if you'd like me to continue.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we have before you tonight requisition number 282 in the amount of $7,980.34 for your consideration.
Okay. Said requisition is on the floor, requisition number 282. Is there a motion regarding requisition number 282?
Motion to approve.
Motion set properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. All right, requisition number 282 stands as approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have our project management report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's nice to be before you all this evening. Just have a few updates to report. One, just general business. The auditors have reached out to Laura and I for information, and we feed that to them as quickly as they send it in. We send it right back out, so hopefully those are wrapping up soon for the authority. As you know, back in August, we had an initial meeting with the City of Atlanta where we pitched, for one, the idea of a partnership. How can we work together? And we got a very warm reception. Atlanta was reviewing the information that we provided to them about our project. We gave them anything and everything that we have ever done on this project, the history and the assets that we own to review. I know right now we're in election season, which makes it difficult to know who will be in any of the cities in January and to know who the partners will actually be to work through those discussions. So I see that as in a little bit of a hold while we're waiting for elections to wrap up here. Also got an interesting inquiry from and I don't know if he's here tonight because I did not look behind me. Mr. Hamilton Holmes, who I believe many of you do know, reached out to me and Laura and Dennis about a company that he has worked with in the past called Sustainability Partners that might be interested to be a private funder of public water systems. That's about all I know, but an interesting option, kind of given the direction this authority's been going the last few months. You know, Laura and I didn't feel like we should just jump out and take the meeting. We wanted to bring this to you and ask you, you know, is this a path for us to explore on your behalf?
All right, the floor is open. Are there any thoughts regarding project managers proceeding with working or reaching out to Mr. Hamilton, meeting with him?
I don't have a problem with it, but I would, I guess, like to know what that actually looks like, because the City of Atlanta meeting, I'm still a little bit in my feelings about that because I just feel like it was done a little bit different than the way I would have done it. So I don't have a problem with reaching out. I just want to make sure that as we're having the conversation with Hamilton Homes or anybody else, that we're giving them right information, because junk in, junk out. We don't know what we're giving him.
So, question one, we've done work with Hamilton Homes in Fairburn and had nothing but positive experiences with him, so, very good resource. Could the conversations lead to whatever entity this is coming before this board, virtually or otherwise, to present what they offer? And just literally engage with the board, start an initial dialogue with staff and say, hey, we'd like for you to present to our Water Authority Board some of the options that your firm has available, and add it to a future agenda where they could come in and literally present to the board, here's what we do, here's how we can assist you in realizing your goals.
I'm sure that's a possibility, but again, he reached out to us and,
Well, I'm sorry, to your original question, yes, I think it is a productive dialogue, I'm sorry, that was
That's
a
okay.
lengthy answer, but yes,
okay.
with the goal of having them come present
Okay.
to the board.
All right, so is that the consensus of the body, that the body is amenable to the meeting as described? Okay, all right, so you have approval to proceed.
All right.
Okay.
Very good. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other business, I don't believe we have any additional business that's listed on the agenda. Attorney Davenport?
Chair, with the recent vote, I need to bring to your attention, your next meeting is scheduled for Veterans Day, which is Tuesday, November the 11th. I don't know if the cities recognize it as a holiday or not, but if you do, you may want to reconsider scheduling to a different date other than November the 11th.
It is a holiday for the city of Fairburn.
This one for the City of Palmetto as well.
So,
You mean city as
I want to
well?
look at your calendars and see where your next meeting should be for November, because it sounds like the 11th is not an option.
Okay. And all of the members are not present either, so we won't have the benefit of that. So is it best for Secretary Davis to reach out to us after the meeting so that everybody can have the benefit of looking at their calendars?
Will be
We
good.
only have one person missing. Can we potentially come up with like 2 dates and just choose one?
Member Slayton, unless you're gonna have, will you be at the November meeting, at a November meeting as well, or will it be Member Slayton?
Oh, I don't know that part. I'm saying,
That's what I'm saying, Slayton and Mayor Williams are both out. So I was asking if we could handle this. I think we should be able to handle this post-meeting. Jessica, reach out to everybody to get a hold of their calendars, and we can have some recommended dates.
I agree with Chairwoman about that process. I would only ask that we have a date certain by which we will respond to Ms. Davis to conclude a date, so.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fair
confident we will
ask.
Send that out, and if we will all commit to responding by a specific date so that she can confirm what date.
I think that's a fair ask. Member Phillips?
Within the next week, in case you have to advertise anything or notice anything, so that would be a good time frame if we could get it
By
handled
Tuesday
in the
the
next 7
21st.
days.
So that would be Tuesday, the 21st?
Okay.
Yes, that would be.
All right, we have a date, Tuesday the 21st. All right, being that there's no other business at this time, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
so,
Moved?
I'm sorry, guys. I had one other thing. I wanted to clarify what we said we were putting on the next agenda. So I know we said the accountant discussion,
Right. With Georgia Tech.
and is Georgia Tech or the
Can you
option that-
can you repeat that? I didn't.
So we talked about, I forwarded already to Ms. Davis, the accountant recommendation. So we talked about putting
Okay.
that on the next agenda.
And you're going to send it to us in advance, right?
You already have it.
Okay, good, good,
Yeah,
good.
I sent it just a moment ago.
Okay.
I didn't have Member Slayton's email address. Can
Okay.
you forward it to him?
I will.
Everyone else should have it. I sent it a moment ago. So that was on the next agenda. Member Jones mentioned the revisiting the revenue discussion. And then we talked about a scope of work discussion for Georgia Tech. So is there consensus that those things will be on our agenda for the next meeting?
I concur.
I'm good with that. My question is, when are we going to draw up the scope? Are we gonna wait till that meeting to do it, or do we need to? One of the things that I think is an added value is creating like and I use Google being my personal business, but creating like a Google form that everyone has access to, that as you have ideas, we just do brain dumps. I have people that work with me, that when they come up with an idea, they can put it on the sheet, I can see when it was updated, I can see who thought about it, there's all these different columns, they set that up, I don't do it. But it's a way of capturing all of the ideas in one living, breathing document. So I don't know if, again, I'm throwing out Google, but I imagine there's something else that we can use to.
And I'm open to whatever platform helps us to collaborate best. I think the information that was put together for our retreat last August would be a document that would be useful for the folks at Georgia Tech as a starting point. I think we should, and I don't mind taking an initial stab at it and sending everybody, come up with a very generic scope of work, and then we just ping pong it among each other. Everybody feel free to jump in and tweak it and change it and add stuff to it so that we at least come to the next meeting with a draft that we've all kind of seen and we've had a chance to weigh in on. Doesn't have to be finalized. I'm just saying as a working document. And I think the background information that staff did such a good job putting together would be key in that because that gives a lot of the context.
Let me just, I just want to make sure, because I want to make sure we stay in order. So my understanding was that we were going to have, there was a request to have Georgia Tech present. Now we're saying scope of work. The board has not voted to engage Georgia Tech on anything. So do they present first, and based on us hearing the information, then it would make sense to have a scope of work?
So I may have used the wrong
Or-
phrase. I wasn't talking about engaging Georgia Tech.
Okay, because when you say
So let's-
scope of work, I'm
Yeah.
thinking we're
So
starting to
if
engage.
we're gonna
That's
ask
normally the
Georgia
path.
Tech to come and present to us about what they can do.
Yes.
They need a base of information to make that presentation.
Okay, that's
Who
different
are
from
we?
scope of work.
What do we
Okay.
do?
Correct.
And maybe the presentation, again, that the staff put together is sufficient to do that. So scope of work may have been
Yeah.
premature. So I wasn't talking about engaging them, but if you're going to give them an opportunity to come and present, they need some context for that presentation about what they could provide for this authority. And we need to provide them some document that would help them to present in a way that could be useful for our purposes.
Okay, all right, thank you for clarifying that. All right, if there's no other business, I seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? We stand as adjourned. Thank you.
All right.